Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and today we are at the Hard Rock Casino in Hollywood, Florida, and we're at the Pipes Conference that the Deal Flow events guys are launching. And I got Mitchell on the line, who is one of the lead sponsors. Mitch, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, so what brings you out today?
Well, listen, we sponsored this conference. We have clients here. We here hanging out with, people in our industry that we see year in, year out.
Yeah.
I've spoken on a panel last night. I've spoken on a panel this morning.
You were at the poolside panel
I
last
was at
night,
the
right?
poolside,
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought so.
So look, they try to get a collection of people who were in this business from the beginning, and just have a conversation about pipes and
Yeah.
sort of where it came from, where it's going, and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's good, fun to be here.
How'd you get started in this business? Like, where did all this begin for you?
Well, I feel like I've been in this business for about 30 years, maybe a little bit more. I think it just came out of being a capital. We called them securities lawyers back then, but a capital markets lawyer. And I was just interested, in the markets. I always had probably came from my upbringing or whatever. I was very interested in companies going public, IPOs and the stock market. And I was a lawyer, obviously. And
Yes.
it was a good combination of the two. I like the subject matter. I liked understanding about finance and public deals and public companies. And so, it just grew from there, and they just grew into different structures of, equity finance, such as the pipe, which is like the subject matter of this conference, beyond, IPOs, which is probably most of us started out doing. And then going to other stuff, where it was pipes or, SPACs, which became a big part of what I do as well. And, reverse mergers and different kinds of equity finance. So it all sort of, came from there. I can't say that I've done much of anything else,
Yeah.
in that 30 something years. So I think the practice has gone into other areas, whether it be M&A or even investigatory or the litigation, white collar stuff. Certainly has, working with IP companies or life sciences companies or tech companies. But it all really stemmed from the capital markets work. The whole thing.
So, not asking you to say any specific company or anything else like that, but what excites you in the space overall? You've been doing, over 30 years.
Yeah.
What's exciting right now?
It's tough. It's a tough area. It's a tough business. And you're constantly, particularly in what I do and where people bring me into the transaction cycle. I'm like the person, when you're younger or when you're the more technical person, you're putting out documents, you're generating the deal documents, you're executing through the transaction. When you get to my stage, you're not doing that, because there's a team doing that. They could be the team that's been working for you for a long time.
Yeah.
But you have a team in place that does that. What you ended up being the person that everyone comes to with the problem that no one else can solve. That's what ends up being your day, right? It's kind of like, I always explain this to people, just imagine in a hospital, right? They've got the people that come in, they got receptionists, the nurses, the doctors are doing the check-ins through the different rooms or whatever. And then all of a sudden the crisis comes, and it's in the,
That's what they call it.
in the surgery room, right?
Yeah.
And the person's in critical condition, and, the hospital staff's doing job,
Yeah.
they're doing their job. The doctors are going around doing their, walkthroughs or whatever. And then all of a sudden, boom, this person goes into on the surgery table in a critical condition. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you could be having dinner, you could be, on a phone with someone else watching a Netflix show, whatever you're doing. And within a split second, you're in that surgery room, right? Because, by the way, you don't have to come in, put the gloves on. You get a phone call.
Yeah.
You get a phone call. And then all of a sudden, that phone call turns to the surgery room within a split second. And that is essentially what I do. So the point, getting to the answer to your question, which is, it's really hard getting through that whole process and dealing with all of the crises that goes on around that with multiple people. And a lot of, that's the difference with the surgery room, is you're dealing with all the people in the deal and the working deal, and the companies and the CEOs and the bankers, and everyone's freaking out. And you're trying to get it together. So all that is tough.
Yeah.
But you asked me what's the good part about it, is you save the patient, right?
Yeah.
You saved the patient. You got through the whole thing, and everyone's like, well, you came in and and thank you. I don't know what to do. Thank you. You saved the deal, you saved the situation, you saved this, or you got this together, or you got that done, and then you sort of go home that day, or you get off the phone that night, and you say, well, yeah, I guess I did something good today.
That's amazing.
And then I think the other thing that I would say that is probably matches that one, almost like one for one, is that when you go through those, you go through a few of those, you build up a relationship with some, because you've been through something together, right? I think some great relationships are born when you go through these like cataclysmic situations.
Yeah.
There's a bond that comes out of that. Like, oh, well, we went through that, and we got through that, we survived that, and that's kind of a nice thing too. That's like, okay, and even years go by, you'll walk into them at something like this,
Yeah, like
or
you were
whatever.
talking about. You had an event and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I worked on it.
And then it'll be like, oh, and then you'll sit in and you'll talk about the war story of what happened when we went through that together. So I think those are the positives, that comes out of it. Yeah.
It's great. Last question I have for you. You mentioned this multiple times here, and I just want your take on it. You mentioned team. You said team,
Yeah.
or it could be putting together a deal or otherwise. Or what does that mean to you? The team, the importance of a team through these stages that you work through.
Yeah, I think, look, your team, I always say you're only as good as your team. If you're doing a little bit more routine work, if you're doing like less sophisticated things that are not necessarily multifaceted, yeah, you could probably do it on your own.
Yeah.
But if you start getting into things like getting a little bit hairy, complex, it's multifaceted, it's time consuming, it's time sensitive, you're looking at doing it together with a team.
Yeah.
And the end of the day is like, you're only going to be as good as the team, right? You're never going to do something without having a full team backing you that's, any better without. So, it took me some years to learn that in my career, because you're not necessarily, I think, taught that way coming out of like school or starting out as you're worried about your
It's
work.
not intuitive.
It's not
It's not intuitive.
You're worried about your work. You're worried about getting your stuff done. But I think for me, like building that team, was very, very important, and really doing it the right way.
Fantastic. Well, appreciate you making some time for us. Last thing, if you can look into the camera, if somebody wants to follow you, learn more about the firm, anything else, whatever contact you choose to leave, please.
No, feel free to email at Nussbaum, which is my first initial last name, Nussbaum at Loeb, Loeb.com. Firm's named Loeb Loeb. Feel free to email. Happy to be in touch. If you got some questions or some thoughts that you want to share, feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll put the link to the website in the show notes, so you can just click on it and head right on over. And speaking to the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're putting out new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration that can help you along the way on your journey as well. Mitchell, thank you for making time for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.